Okay, hey, we hope we got the live feed working. So if not, someone call the office and tell us it's not working. So thanks for those of you who are joining us today. And I know we'll be taking this, and every time someone in the office asks me about potty training, I'll say, remember we did that lecture on potty training, and you can go back to our Facebook page and check it out, because I do get asked this question a whole lot. And so I'm very appreciative of Sarah Mudry, who's joining us today from Studio June. I'm going to let her introduce herself, because I feel like people introduce themselves better than I can probably do it. But she's going to help today give us the ins and outs on potty training, or as I like to call it, the scoop on poop. Okay, so Sarah.
Hi, so I'm Sarah. I run Studio June, which is here in Bel Air, and we are a parent-child education center based, and we use all Montessori philosophy for our classes. So we have Montessori-trained teachers, and parents come once a week to classes, and they get to work alongside their child and experience what a Montessori classroom is like, Montessori philosophy, and then they get tips on how to bring that information home.
Perfect.
And what they can be doing at home. So that's what I do now. I've been in Montessori education for 20 years, and a good portion of that has been potty training. So I've potty trained hundreds of children, and I advise parents all the time on potty training. So,
well, I've had 4 kids, but my youngest is 10, so it's been a while since I potty trained. And my child went to a Montessori school, my youngest, and actually they pretty much potty trained her, but I liked their method, which actually didn't really involve me much at all. So it's great. Just so you also know, in case you're wondering about our new friends, we have a few new friends in the office. I should introduce them. This is the sloth, which is fabulous, because I don't know why, but I found him and he moves really slow and he's awesome. But I also found this wonderful possum at Buc-ee's, and this guy has been so popular here. So people ask me what I do all day. I'm like, I take care of children and we play with stuffed animals. That's a lot of fun. And there's no reason your child, we like to see them developmentally play with stuffed animals, so that's a good sign. So anyway, so now we'll talk about potty training. So what I really wanted Sarah to do was tell us her insights and what she knows about it. And then I have a few specific questions that I'll ask, but if you have questions, feel free to chime in and ask those questions. So go ahead.
all right.
Tell us how it's done.
When I talk with parents about potty training or potty learning, we often say, I focus on the child's development, the child's becoming more independent and recognizing the signals in their body, so that they can become independent in the bathroom. So that's kind of our goal. And so all of the method that we use is based on getting to that goal. Now that is a different period of time for each child, because the way each child potty trains is different. But there are some things that we can do to make sure that we're offering them consistency in their experience, and so they can respond to it as their personality allows. So first of all, I can't stress enough how important environment is. So the space where they're using the bathroom, so there's the physical, which is really important, but also what we call the human environment.
Okay.
And that's all like your attitude. So how you as the adult or whoever else is helping you to potty train, how you approach it is so important. And
so screaming at your child go potty is wrong.
Right.
Gotcha.
That's not gonna achieve the goal you want. No.
Right.
So you have to really, and even before you start, you have to, kind of everyone get together, all the adults get together that are going to be a part of this. So if there's a caregiver involved, if grandparents are involved, anyone that's going to be involved in the process, and say, okay, here are the expectations. This is the plan. This is what we're doing.
Right.
And everyone get on board, so that when your child starts the process, everyone has kind of the same response, which is, it's time to use the toilet.
Right.
Or the potty, whatever language you use. But we want to make sure that we always have that positive statement about it's time to use the potty, and we don't ask. We don't say, do you need to use the potty? We always state it. It's time to use the potty. And we have kind of, I don't want to say monotone, but we don't have a whole lot of emotion in our voice. So we don't want to have like an excitement of, it's time to use the potty. And we don't have, it's time to use the potty. We don't want any of that. Just right there in the middle, very matter of fact. This is a tip. This is what all humans do, right? They learn to use the potty. Your child's going to learn to use the potty, and we just treat it that way. Just that
so
calm
just like
demeanor.
it's time to go to the restroom. It's time to use the potty.
Yep. And whatever language you use, That's another part that's really important. Just be consistent.
Okay.
So if you say potty, restroom, toilet, whatever it is, just use the same word all the time.
Okay.
Because they'll use those like audio clues, cues, as to what time it is. Because young children don't tell time yet, but they understand routine. So we're going to create a routine for them that they understand, and part of that is the language we use.
Okay. So step number 1, everyone is on board, including Grandma.
Yeah, Grandma has to be on board too.
Grandma's on board. And then everyone be consistent with the language, and don't ask your child, would you like to go to the restroom or the potty, and be consistent with whatever you use for that term anyway. So don't say, do you need to go to the potty? Say, it's time to use the potty, period. Gotcha.
It's time to use the potty. Yep.
That's it.
And then, so along with the human environment, what I call all the people, they have to be consistent and kind of everyone on the same page. But the physical environment has to be prepared. So there has to be like a potty chair, or you have to have a smaller ring on your toilet with a step stool. I brought some of my favorite potty chairs.
Funny story, when we moved into our house, I was pregnant, so this was 10 years ago, and I was pregnant with Alexi, who's 10 now.
Yeah.
She's actually in the picture back there, I don't know if you see her. And so she'll hate me telling the story, but the people we bought the house from had young kids, so in their restroom, they actually had a actual porcelain but small toilet, and on the wall was was actually a throne, and so the throne is still there, which is funny, and now it's a normal sized toilet. But I thought the fact that it was a throne, but it's a perfect miniature toilet, and so that's what we used. So we never had the plastic potty. So you can also apparently buy an actual porcelain toilet.
The plumbing is difficult.
Plumbing's difficult.
So I don't recommend it. It's such a short period of time. I mean, when you look back on it, when you're in it, it feels like a long period of time. But when you look back on it, you don't need to put it.
Yeah, it was only cute for 3 years, and then we said they should probably get a normal toilet.
Right. So these are some of my favorites. Super basic, nothing fancy about it, because it is. I want you to look at this as a tool. Okay, so it's not a toy or anything. This is a tool to help your child become independent in the bathroom. So we just want like your basic. This is for the little ones. So if you're starting before 2.5, which I highly recommend.
Good. I do too.
This is the potty for you, this is one brand. I find consistently this brand is comfortable for children. Like their little bottoms and thighs fit so perfectly on there. There are some other ones where they're not comfortable for some reason. So this one is consistently comfortable for children.
Ignorant question, but I'll ask. There's no liner.
Right.
So do they come with a liner or something? Or
this one, no. So this one, actually, this is just like you pick up and dump.
Okay.
And then you wipe clean with your, you can do a Clorox wipe or whatever it is you feel comfortable with it to clean it up in your home. This one also comes like this now, and this is another one I like.
Awesome.
So this one is very basic, and this part comes out and you dump.
Oh, okay. So,
this style also comes with the part that.
Oh, okay.
So it comes like just one piece of plastic
or
two pieces.
So that you can take this out. Okay. And would this normally be in their bedroom or in a different room? And should the potty be in their bedroom?
So, a couple of different answers to that.
Okay.
It should be in a consistent place.
Okay. So
and it should
closet.
it should be where you're going to use it.
Okay.
So where you're spending your time, or the bathroom that's set up, and some people will set up a bathroom on multiple floors. Some parents will just do like their own bathroom because they want to do all the potty training in there. Wherever you set it up, just make it consistent and always have it set up there and make it easy to get to. So for me personally, when I potty trained my oldest, we had the tiniest little bathroom and there was no place to put one of these. So I put it in his room. And that was successful for that situation. But my other two children, it was in the bathroom, and that made sense for us. I know people that have put it in the hallway right outside the bathroom. So wherever it is.
And do you find these are better than using the smaller ring that goes in the toilet, the bigger toilet? Because a lot of kids are afraid they'll fall in the toilet. It's just uncomfortably so high and dangly legs.
Yeah, their legs dangle, and all of us, we all feel more grounded when our feet are on the floor, no matter where you're sitting, right? Like if you sit in a chair that's too big for you, you always feel like, you know, like just not as confident.
Yeah. I'm sitting on a pillow.
So when you're in something that's sized to your body, you feel you can present yourself more confidently, and young children will be more confident in their ability to relax.
Okay.
And let go, because that's what they have to do. And if they're worried about falling off or their toes not touching or something, then they're not gonna relax. I mean, it's just, so I prefer to use little toilets and then these little potty chairs, and then they transition to the big toilet. If you use a big toilet, you need some sort of step stool where their feet can be flat. Right. So if you need to, there's something called the Little Looster. I think I think Target sells it, and it's like a wraparound step stool. Okay. Those are still too low. For the little guys, and their feet just dangle. Yeah. So. Well,
I mean, and they, you know, I think there's at least some support to the idea that them being in more of a squatting position is more helpful, which is probably why the squatty potty did so well, right?
Yes, right.
That adults use, and so it's more comfortable having your feet on something.
So Little Looster and Squatty Potty are the same thing. I think actually they're one company now. I don't know which one they went with.
There you go.
Anyway, and then, so those are the toilets I like. And then I always recommend that parents have like a little, what I call a dressing stool. So this is just a basic little stool. Okay. And this is for them to sit on when they're putting their underwear on. Or when they're taking their underwear off. Because as we know, these little guys are top heavy because of the proportions of their body. And so when they lean over to get their underwear on or whatever it is, they need kind of to be on a low stool so that they're not toppling over, they're not looking for their balance. And it's easier for them to put their underwear on if they're sitting up on a little stool versus sitting on the floor. Okay. Because you can't pull up when you're sitting on the floor. And part of potty training is learning how to dress.
Yes. So, because I would actually ask, is one of the questions I get asked a lot is, how do you know a child's ready to potty train? And is one of those cues that they are taking on and off their own diaper or wanting to pull on and off like their pants?
So, I personally, all my experience with potty training, I would say if you're at that point, you could have started long ago, but you definitely should start now. Okay. Children, as we know, understand a lot more before they actually can tell us what they understand.
I would agree.
Or before they can express what they understand. But there's a lot going on in there, and potty training is one of those things. So the way the body develops, and you know this, from the head down and the center out, the way the muscles develop in the body. So we know when children can walk that the muscular and nervous systems have developed to the feet, which means it's crossed the sphincter muscles. So the sphincter muscles are ready to go, they just need practice. So they can start practicing as soon as they're walking. Okay. So for some children, that's 9-10 months when you have these little ones that are walking. For other children, it's 18 months and they're walking, and that's when you can start. So anytime after that, they're ready to start. It's just you have to get that environment ready and all the people on board.
Okay. Do kids have a say in it, even little toddlers, and this is one of the questions I have on my list is, what about the stubborn kids? Because sometimes you'll have little kids who, you know, regardless of what you say, they kind of ignore what you say, and they're running around the room like mad and stuff, and the parents are like, well, I potty trained him, except we can't even get him to slow down. Right. You know, and so are there some kids where that you hear that same thing and you're like, yeah, maybe wait. I mean, or still trudge on and try.
My advice for waiting is, the only time I would say you need to wait is if you're just about to have a second child or another child. Okay. So right before that,
good
you're
idea.
Just about to go on a trip.
Okay.
You're just about to move your house. Like some major event is going to happen.
Okay.
Wait. Okay. Definitely wait.
But you feel that as long as they're walking, they're old enough to start the process.
They are, and I do feel like there's kind of this sweet spot between 16 months and about maybe 22 months. I would say 16 months to 22 months, where they just want to do everything with you. They're in love with their parents. It's like that magical, like, oh, we could spend all of our days together. And then they turn 2, and you go, oh, you have an opinion about things.
That's fun.
Yeah. So that 16 months to 22 months, when they just want to be with you and doing things together, they're so open to, when you say, okay, you're going to use the toilet today. And they're like, all right. we're going to use the toilet. And then they love the routine. You set up a routine, you do the same thing every time. Okay. You use the same language every time, and that's what they do. Children, if you can get them between 16 months and 22 months, and they're walking, and you get them in underwear, so no more diapers when they're awake, only underwear. Okay. And you do the same thing every day from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed, same routine. It takes 2 weeks.
Now, those same kids won't be trained at night, and that's maybe a good important thing. It takes a lot longer for them to be able to control holding their urine all night long. Yeah. And so you would recommend they stay in a diaper at nighttime?
I would say for naps and nighttime, keep them in a diaper. Once you've got the day thing down, you can start to examine, and one is for the parent's sanity. Like, that's a lot, right? Like, it's a lot of sheets. It's, you're trying to figure out when can they hold it and when can't they. Just do the daytime thing. Once you've got that down, look at naps and nighttime a little bit, and if they wake up from nap, if you wake up 3 days in a row dry, they're probably holding it. Oh, good. So you're fine to just switch to underwear during naps. Nighttime's a little bit longer. It can be like 7 years old before they can really hold their bladder that long. And it's different for every child. You probably can speak to this better than I.
Yeah, I mean, we have something we call it enuresis or bedwetting at night, and it could last till they're late in elementary school, even early middle school. Just everyone's different, and it kind of runs in families. And so if you're one who wet the bed, then you might have a child who did too. And it's important just not to punish them, or to make them feel bad about that, because that's just also a body function, and their body's just slower at developing that function and control.
Yeah, so definitely, keep that kind of very matter of fact. Like, if it does happen, say, "Oh, your sheets are wet," and you know, change them in the morning, and or in the middle of the night when it happens. But I wouldn't worry about the sleeping through the night. I mean, if you've got the day thing down, sleeping through the night, that happens. It just happens eventually. And if you have a child that is bedwetting, they probably get to a point where they will tell you, "I'm ready to be in underwear at night."
Right.
Because it goes, like you're saying, into elementary. So
then they can talk.
They can talk to you and tell you how they're feeling. But I tell parents, don't stress about the nighttime thing. It's going to happen when it happens.
I tell parents not to stress about almost everything.
Well, yes. Well, that's true. I don't think they should stress about potty training at all either. It's one of my favorite times in development for children, because it's when they're embracing their independence and they figure out, children that at a young age, when they figure out they can do this and they've got it, like they stand a little taller, and it's so nice when you get to the other side and you don't have your child in diapers anymore. The independence and the freedom you have to go about your day, and you don't have to carry the giant diaper bag, and it's and like I said, that 16 months to 22 months, if you just tackle it right in that time, it'll just move quickly.
Now, some advice that I give parents when I get asked about this, and I feel strongly about this advice regardless of what the reason is, and it's not to reward them for going, for example, to go potty. Really, actually, not to reward them for most things, because most things that they're accomplishing are just normal, everyday tasks. It's normally bodily functions. And so the way I explain to most parents is that if you wouldn't clap for yourself for achieving a task, don't reward your kid, but especially don't give them M&Ms or food or something where you actually have an emotional attachment, for example, with food. Yeah. Like, that starts at a very young age. And so, but if you would clap for yourself, and I don't know any adult who claps themselves when they go to the bathroom, at least not many normal adults. And so if you just think about that in your minds, and I think that resonates with a lot of parents, but I don't like the idea of rewarding potty training or rewarding behaviors, because it does set a bit of a precedent.
It does, yeah.
And it's actually not that effective.
It's not. That's the
thing. Because if you forget those M&Ms, forget it. Well, this kid's not going to pee in the toilet for you.
I find most parents I've talked to that have tried rewarding for potty training, they're like, it worked 2 times. Right. And then they wouldn't do it again. And it's like the novelty wears off. They're like, I don't want to do this. What they want, what children want, what young children want, is they want to feel safe and secure, and they want to understand their routine. And so the more we can be consistent with our routine, the safer they feel. So what happens when you start potty training, if you can put together a very consistent routine, you'll get like the first couple of days of like, okay, they're really following along, and then usually day 3 they push back against the routine, but that's when you really have to like stay strong and be like, no, this is what we do now. Very matter of fact, just tell them, you use the toilet. And you just keep pushing through, you push through the routine, and that's what they want. They want it, they're pushing back against the rules because they want to make sure that
those are the rules.
Those are the rules, yeah, and that they can trust you.
Right.
I trust you that yesterday these rules were there, and today these rules are there, and tomorrow. And that's how you build trust with your child, is you're honest with them all the time. And when you're honest with them and you say, it's time to use the toilet, you follow through, it's time to use the toilet, and then they just go about. You know, so there may be a time of like the stiff body, screaming. I never force a child to sit on a toilet. However, if I say it's time to use the toilet, I always follow through, which means I help them through the routine. So I may just pick them up and bottom to the toilet, and we just move on quickly. I'll say something like, I guess you don't need to go right now. But I don't force them to sit, but I want them to know these are always the steps, and I'm always going to be here to support you.
What if they have an accident during the process, which has to be inevitable? So when my youngest was at Montessori, which, as I said, they trained her, so it's great. So around 14 months of age is when she started Montessori, and what they told me was, you need to show up and bring her to school in these training underwear. There are these thick underwear from Target. And so I said, well, how am I supposed to make it from my house to school in these training underwear? They're like, you need to drive fast. I'm like, I'm only a mile away. And then in a shirt, just a t-shirt. And then, so when I picked them up later in the day, I'd see the little kids all out there, and they're wearing just their underwear and a t-shirt. And I always would forget. And even years later, I'd see those little kids out there in their underwear. I'm like, why are these kids in underwear? But in some sense, that way they just didn't have other stuff on them that they had to worry about taking off. And I've even told parents, maybe let them run around barefoot during this time, because peeing on your shoes isn't that much fun either.
No, and you don't want to be washing the shoes all the time.
No. It's not good for it's not good for anyone. And so, how do you feel about training underwear versus training the pull-ups? And I don't want Pampers to call me later. I don't love pull-ups myself. Personally, and the reason I've always given was that they kind of learn they can pee in something that they can pull up and down, as opposed to if they're in the training pants, they actually feel getting wet.
So there's a couple of things with that. It's interesting. So before Pampers, before disposable diapers, in the 70s, the average potty training age in the United States was 18 months.
Oh, yes, it probably went up dramatically after that.
It's closer to like 3.5 now. And that's because we can leave them in diapers and deal with the mess later. So when you were washing all the time, you know, you wanted them out of diapers quickly, right? Because it's true. Like once your child learns how to use the toilet, the laundry goes down and you stop buying diapers and all that. It's great. So used to be a lot younger, and now we have parents that wait because they can. We've also gotten lots of conflicting advice about, you know, will there be some psychological damage, or am I pushing them, or but that aside, we can talk about that in a minute. The underwear, so there is some research that shows that children have we all have muscular memory in our body, right? So that there is a muscular memory in the thighs, and so as they are kind of connecting with the different signals in their body, like the feeling of a full bladder, if they feel a bulk between their thighs, their bladder releases. And so I always recommend the thinner underwear, the better, because there's no bulk between the legs. And if you're home, go bare bottom if you can. And in Houston, maybe not today because it's a little chilly outside, but
everyone has the fireplace on.
That's right. But most times of the year in Houston, you can go bare bottom and they're fine. So they're finding that children will hold it if they don't feel the comfort of that bulk between the legs. So you have more of a chance for them to recognize that's what is happening in their body, and you can get them to the toilet. And you usually see it on their face, like they're like very still, or they're trying to like constrict all those muscles because they know, or they'll go a little bit and then they'll stop, which is a great exercise for them to exercise those muscles. That's right. So the bulkier the underwear, the better chance it's going to take longer.
Mm-hmm.
So I always recommend just getting basic underwear.
Okay.
Like really thin, just those little cotton ones.
Okay.
I like white ones because it means that there's no choice. Like it doesn't, we don't get all hung up in do you want the princess or do you want, yeah. So I just do them all the same personally, but hey,
do not get underwears. There are days of the week that will not work.
No, it can be all mixed up.
Right.
But you know, if you want to do princess or SpongeBob or whatever it is, that
make them all the exact same princess.
I think it's best if they're all the same because then you don't get into like
underwear wars.
Flopping on the floor because whatever princess isn't available.
Yes. That princess might have died of poop.
Yeah, we don't know. I like to go thinner and then bare bottom when they're at home. Barefoot is always better. If you're in the car though, let me get my underpants.
There's underpants.
I have my stack of underpants.
Yay! Now I'm super familiar with some of these because I have a good number of patients who use cloth diapers.
Yeah, great.
And I applaud them, and then I hold out to see are they really going to keep using cloth diapers. And amazingly, they kind of stick to it, so I'm kind of impressed.
Once you get the hang of
and
cloth
they potty
diapers,
train really fast because
they do.
They're done cleaning diapers. So I think the parent motivation who use cloth diapers is really high.
Well, another thing with cloth diapers is even from infancy, they feel when they release their bladder, they feel wet and uncomfortable because it doesn't wick away like disposable. So they're used to that feeling of releasing the bladder and then being uncomfortable, and then they get a change. So babies have that experience versus if you put them in disposable diapers, and so imagine for the first 16 months of their life, they have the feeling of full bladder release and everything's fine. They have to learn the new sensation once you put them in underwear. Where infants that have been in cloth diapers know that sensation and they want to be out of it.
Gotcha.
Like they don't want that wet feeling because nobody wants the wet feeling. There's the occasional child that seems to not notice, but I think that's personality based.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict who that is going to be. Yeah. So if you are out and about, so if you're leaving the house, taking them to school,
they should not be bare bottoms.
Yep. They should not be bare bottoms. If you have to go to the grocery store, I recommend once you start, the first 2 days really just like hunker down and be home. Try not to go out. But after that, if you need to start going out or being out in the world, I recommend something like this. Now, these are difficult because they are bulky, so it's counter to what I was just saying about having the bulk. But what these do is these are cotton on the inside, which is a natural fiber, so children are going to feel the wetness if they go. So that's what we want.
Oh, look, I'm here.
They come in all different sizes. So
but they are cotton.
They're cotton on the inside, but then they have a waterproof layer, so they can release one bladder's full, and you're not gonna it's not gonna look like you flooded the aisle at Target, and you're not gonna be cleaning up.
Will their pants get wet?
Usually you'll just see like a little bit on the sides, like if a diaper leaked, is what it'll look like.
Yeah,
so it just means
pretty cute.
Yeah, it just means you need to go to the bathroom and change them and put a fresh pair on. It won't hold two.
One until yes.
It'll only hold one bladder full. They come in all different sizes.
Go straight home.
And so there's different ones. This one's called Imsy Vimsy, which is one of my favorites. You can just buy these all on
and it has
Amazon.
different sizes. So this is 4 to 5 years. This is a pretty old one.
It's 4 to 5 years, but I'm going to say that fit my 2-year-old.
Oh. I guess it depends on the size of your 2-year-old.
My kids had really chunky thighs.
Thunder thighs go to 4 to 5. Gotcha.
Yeah. But they're easy to clean. This one is called Bright Bots. The waterproof layer is just down here, but this is for little bottoms. So and it doesn't leak. Now this one is nice if they poop in it, because then you can just snap it off rather than dragging it down their body. Because that can be messy.
Speaking of poop, I have some, because we said it was the scoop on poop. So one, I'll make a strong argument now. Constipated children will struggle terribly with potty training. So I hear that all the time. I know it's to be true. If they start holding because they get very constipated, then they don't want to go to the bathroom because it's painful. And anyway, so if you're going to potty train your child, it should It's much easier if they are a very regular.
Yes.
And if they are irregular, it's something to talk to your pediatrician about, because I actually like kids to be pretty regular.
Yeah.
But we were talking about poop and trying to get these sorts of things off. Have you had kids? And I know I've had this experience from parents myself, where they say, well, I'll say, well, are they potty trained? And they say, for pee.
Yeah.
But pooping, they request a diaper, and then they go behind the couch and squat, and so they refuse to poop on the potty. They want a diaper, go have it, and then come to you and have you change it. And so have you had much experience with this?
I have, and really it's about, you really have to reset their routine. The reason they do that is because that's how they're comfortable, and that's what their experience has always been, in being comfortable. So when you get to that part, you have to really reset their routine. That's why if you start earlier, you can usually get to them before they establish a routine like that. So if you start with an early walker, they're not used to going behind the couch, because that's a new thing that they can even do, is walk behind the couch.
Right.
So you start the routine from the beginning. If you can't, with poop, it's a little bit different than pee, because pee is just more regular, right? Like, it's going to happen like every hour.
Right.
Where pooping maybe once, twice a day.
Right.
Some children are every other day. So if you can get to know their schedule and get them on the toilet when you think they're going to go, and they're not constipated, that's kind of how it starts. You just have to get them on the toilet at the right time, and then they have this realization of like, oh, that's what that's for. And then if you consistently get them on the toilet, like one of my children was always 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. I just knew it.
Oh, okay.
And that child was like poop trained before a year, because I knew at 10 and 2, I just had to get him on the toilet. Once he was walking, he was going by himself, because he knew that's what that toilet is for, which was great. Didn't have to wash all those diapers.
Yeah. And you had cloth diapers.
I did cloth diaper, all three.
That would explain why they potty trained so fast. I have some families who use cloth diapers. I do not think this talk's going to convince almost any of the others to do cloth diapers, because it is a little bit time intensive. So it takes a little dedication.
In the beginning, yes, but honestly, like,
once you're good at it.
And if you're pregnant and considering it, once you start from the beginning and you just get your routine, the only time I recommend to go with disposable diapers is like if you're traveling, you just leave the cloth at home. I know parents that cloth diaper while they travel. I tried it once and I was like, never do that again.
And if you're in a situation where you're in the midst of potty training, or say your child's newly potty trained, and then you're gonna say take them on a play date. This actually happened to us once. And the scenario was such, and if you ever do this, and I hear about it, I'll get on to you for doing it, but it was a child who just become potty trained, or was newly potty trained, and we were going out to dinner, and so our babysitter was going to watch the kids. We go to dinner, we come home to the babysitter, who says, so-and-so peed on your rug. I said, why did so-and-so pee on my rug? They said, well, apparently she just got potty trained, and she didn't come in a diaper, and so I would make an argument, if you want to continue having your friends, you not bring your newly potty trained child to their house and leave them on their own to try to find the random toilets.
Right.
And so think ahead, I guess, out of courtesy to your friends too.
Or
so
give the babysitter a heads up.
We still laugh about it. We're like, what do you mean she peed on my rug?
Yeah.
My dog didn't even do that.
Yeah. Well, I do recommend to parents that they invest in some carpet cleaner.
Oh, yes, okay, that's a good idea.
During this time.
And then what about I've had some parents show up with a portable potty.
Yes. So
and they suddenly unfold this thing, which we didn't have 10 years ago, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, and suddenly there's a liner, and then they go.
Yes. So there are all sorts of tricks and things on the market. So I've seen it, they'll pull it out of their diaper bag, put it on, like there's one that's like an insert, it goes on a regular, like a public toilet, so their child doesn't have to sit on the public toilet, it's kind of like this thing that goes over it. I find most parents to deal with like public bathrooms, because in the beginning they can be really kind of scary for children because of the automatic flushing, they look different, they're bigger, and each bathroom you go in looks different. And like I was saying, the consistency is so important in the early days, because they're trying to figure out, so they have a hard time kind of translating each bathroom situation. So the more consistent an environment we can give them, the less time they're trying to figure out what is this for, what is this button, why does this one have a lever, you know, trying to figure that all out. So a lot of parents will have like this one, this type thing,
Okay.
in the back of their car.
Oh, okay. So
And
you
then
just whip it out.
before they go out, like into a store or when they come out of the store, and you probably noticed this if you haven't before, but they're in the back of the car,
Yeah.
just sitting on this, and the kids are fine. Like, oh, that's my toilet. That's where I go, and parents take care of it right there.
I used to have an SUV.
Yeah. I don't know, like the whole like carrying it in your purse. I wouldn't necessarily do that,
No.
but like having it sometimes, you know, if that's what it takes. And I think public restrooms, it's kind of like the sleeping through the night thing. Like you're gonna have to like work up to it.
Right. It's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
And I would say porta potties, from my own personal experience with my kids, and I distinctly remember one of my children when she was like 3, and we were at some festival, and the only potties were porta potties. It did not go
Yeah,
well.
she's like, no.
Oh no! Like
Yeah.
we both ended up covered in all sorts of stuff,
Yeah.
and we were stuck in a porta potty,
Yeah.
and we went straight home. It was bad. So,
Could have used one of these in the back.
or you needed a boy, and
Yeah.
it was a girl.
Yeah.
And anyway, the porta they did not have those.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Those didn't exist. So we've made a lot of advances. So one other question I have: boys versus girls.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found the sex of the child to make a difference with timing or readiness, or how long it takes to potty train? Is there some secret sauce? Like if you're like, you know, she's a super agreeable girl who talked early, who walked early, da da da, they train better than the boys who sometimes might be slower communicating and, you know, all that sort of stuff.
Not necessarily. I know
Okay.
people tell me that they feel like girls train faster.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say after years of
Yeah.
potty training, I don't find that to be true. And
Oh,
even
okay.
with my own children,
Yeah.
I feel like it's more related to two other things. One is kind of personality.
Okay.
Like, is their personality, like maybe they get lost in their play a little bit, and so like interrupting their play,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't necessarily recognize that sign in their body to stop and go use the bathroom. That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is when they walk.
Mm-hmm.
So in my experience, children that are walking later
Mm-hmm.
are also potty training a little bit later too.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like that's just consistent with if they're walking later. There's a lot of, you know, like physically, there's a lot of other things they're doing later. That doesn't mean that they're communicating later, but as far as getting control of once they get control of their legs, then they can start to get control of their sphincter muscles. For children that are not verbal, and
Mhm.
sometimes for boys the verbal comes later,
Mm-hmm.
and I personally did this with my own children, I just teach them the sign
Okay.
for toilet. So
Mhm.
every time they sit on the toilet or the potty chair, and I say toilet,
Okay.
and I say
it's- How do you do it?
you make a T and you just shake it.
Good. I know more.
You know more.
More toilet.
And the other thing you can do is when they're sitting on the toilet, you can say, "Are you all done?"
Oh yes, I know.
So
all
you give
done.
them the sign for all
Okay.
done, so then they can communicate with you, and they don't need to say anything.
Okay, that's
And
good.
and I've found that teaching them toilet has been very helpful, like throughout, like even not just while we were potty training, but there are times like we're at a birthday party and they're across the room and they look at me and they go, and I'm like, all right, let's go find it right
That's
now.
probably better than them grabbing themselves, which is the other universal
Or
sign.
doing the dance,
Or
yeah.
dancing that they have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Although you probably shouldn't ignore those cues either.
No,
If they have
if
them.
they're dancing, and it's, you know, some children, they don't necessarily connect
Mm-hmm.
the dancing move or the kind of
Uh-huh.
moving around that they're doing, and you say, do you need to use the toilet? And they say, no.
Oh, well, but in this case, instead of saying, do you need to use the toilet,
Right.
you say, we're going to use the toilet.
That's right. So you just
Right.
say it. You don't
Okay.
ask them because
Right.
you know what that means.
Yeah,
When
I do like the idea of not asking them. I mean, I love the idea of giving children, you know, options and independence and all this sort of stuff. But I feel like there's certain things that it's kind of a little bit non-negotiable. So if
Yes.
you just say it matter of factly, just is a fact,
Yeah.
instead of making it wishy-washy. So don't be real wishy-washy.
no, you just have to be very clear about it. It's
Okay.
like it's time for dinner.
Mhm.
It's time to use the toilet. There are some things that are just, you know,
Right.
there are choices at other times of the day, and that's one thing. If you find that like they're pushing back because they want a choice
Mhm.
and they feel like maybe they're not enough in control of their life, and children do that, you want to give them choices on other times. Like, do you want to wear this outfit or this outfit? Do you want to have an apple or an orange for snack? Like, those are things that when they're feeling like they're choosing a lot of things in life, things that don't really matter. Do you want to go to Fire Truck Park or do you want to go to, you know, the other park? When you're giving them choices, they feel like, oh, I'm a part of this. Yeah. And then when you get to points where you say, it's time to use the toilet, they're like, okay. Right. They're a little bit more agreeable because they feel like they're making choices all the time. Right. But if you're always dictating to them, we're going to this park, you're eating an apple, you're wearing this outfit, it's time to use a toilet, they're going to start saying, no, right. And then you're going to get resistance.
Pushback. Yeah. You know, kids are interesting. Even if you ask, as your kids get older, if you ask a simple task like, can you please put your shoes on so we can leave? That usually at certain ages starts to be met with eye rolling, pushback, and any excuse not to do it, dragging their feet, whatever it is. And so I always have recommended at a pretty young age, instead, just to make it a little bit fun, because, our youngest, Alexi, was classic for this. I mean, it still works this day, and she's 10. So if I wanted my purse from upstairs, for example, and it's horrible that I use my child to do this, but it works every time, instead of saying, Alexi, will you go get my purse, or Alexi, go get my purse, I say, hey, I bet you can't run upstairs, get my purse, and be back down here in less than a minute. And every single time it works.
The challenge.
It actually kind of works even in teenagers, but it definitely works in toddlers too, because you've kind of engaged them, and then they're more interested and motivated. So we're not giving them a reward. Their reward was that, hey, they got, you know,
they got to be a part of it.
It was like, it was fun, it was a game, and all that sort of stuff.
Children want to be a part of family life.
They do. And they like structure and they like routine. The other thing I tell parents a lot is not to apologize to their children. Okay. It's one of my actual pet peeves. I love watching it happen, but then I point it out. People will say something like, oh, you know, I'm sorry you had an accident, you know, with the potty or whatever it was, or I'm sorry we have to leave the park. And I said, oh, no. You took them to the park. Just instead say, hey, thanks for playing at the park. It's time to go.
Yes.
And so when the child goes to the potty, you know, thanks for going to the potty. It's time to go. I mean, to try to make things move along, they're still involved, but at the same time, don't apologize on your own behalf for absolutely anything. Yeah. Actually, I don't think parents should apologize for anything. But that also wouldn't be
that.
here.
Every once in a while, I think, oh.
Yeah, no. I mean, if you actually did something.
Right.
But instead, people tend to use the words no a lot, and they use the words I'm sorry a lot, with a totally different meaning than they really mean them to mean anyway.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of, you know, I catch myself a lot, just the negative phrasing that we use. I think culturally we've kind of developed a negative phrasing about so many things that if we just turn it around and say things like, rather than saying, don't climb on the table, you can say, keep your feet on the floor, and just turning the negative phrasing into the positive, they're like, all right. Right. And I mean, rather than saying,
feet on the floor.
Yeah, like, we can't stay at the park, you say, we need to get in the car. Okay, like that's a positive statement, not I'm telling you not to do something. Another thing, and my husband actually taught me this, he's so great.
Those are rare words that come together. My husband, and he's so great. That was nice of you.
He's great. But with our own children, when they ask us a question, rather than responding with no, or we can do that later, or that kind of thing, we respond with a yes. Like, can we have dessert? Yes.
Tomorrow.
Exactly. Right. But then you give the yes. Yes, we can do that. Can we go here? Yes, we can go to GameStop this weekend. Not after school.
Right.
But rather than saying, when you pick them up and they say, can we go to GameStop? Well, I don't ever go to GameStop, but that's, I guess, my husband's trip. But if they say that, rather than me saying no, we turn around and say, yes, we'll find time this weekend. So starting to like rephrase things in the positive, really, and even with young children, they're so ready to hear you when you approach them with a positive statement rather than starting with no or a negative.
Right. But I mean, I feel like that even starts as infants and toddlers. And I feel really strongly that their receptive language is way more advanced than their expressive language. And so even when you're potty training, like one of the big other things that I've heard in the past, and I've even kind of seen, is parents being a bit overbearing and getting mad or punishing the child. And there actually was a potty train method from the 70s I'd like to say long before we were born, but apparently I was probably trained this way, but where it was kind of the one-day potty training method, but it was fairly aggressive. It included punishment for if they had an accident, and so that by the end of that day, that child had no other interest except to go to the potty, so they didn't get punished, and then they also used reward. And so I'm not a big fan of that at all, but I'm a huge non-fan and non-believer in punishing when they have an accident or even being real negative when it happens. It's kind of just a matter of fact. And so one thing, and you can tell me if you agree, that I tell parents, so if they're in their underwear and they're playing, taking them to the bathroom at regular intervals is super helpful. But if they have an accident, then, I tend to make a little bit of a production of it, which is like, okay, well, we're going to stop what we're doing. Okay, let's go into the bathroom. Okay, let's change clothes. Okay, oh, look, there's the potty. Oh, next time you can go here first. And then we'll try again in 2 hours, and then let's put this back on. Okay, now we can go play. And then you tell them, oh, next time, it'll save a lot more time. I mean, and the children quickly start to figure out even as well that, so we didn't punish them. We let them be involved a little bit in the cleanup, even if it means if they say pooped, putting it in the toilet. Let them flush. But what are your thoughts on punishment for potty training?
I often look at punishment much like reward. Like,
same thing.
What you're doing is you're giving them feedback based on an emotion. So what they're doing is they're looking to you for, if I do this, what are you going to do? So if I pee in the toilet and I'm used to getting M&Ms, what are you going to do? If I poop next to the toilet and you yell at me, what are you going to do? So they have a behavior that they're used to, whatever response from the parent, whether it's a punishment or a reward, that's what they're doing. They're looking to you for your response. So what we want to do is we want to take the response out of it. Like, that's why we say very matter of fact. Oh, and I say urine. I say urine and bowel movement with children. And I say, oh, there's urine on the floor. Okay, let's go to the bathroom. Your pants are wet. I can help you. And again, I go through all the steps. Also having them sit on the toilet, even though they just went, we want them to go through the routine, because understanding that routine is what's going to help them be independent in it. And so even if their pants are wet, they take them off, they put them in the hamper, they sit on the toilet, they put on clean underwear, they wash their hands, they can go play.
Right. Oh, that was a really important one. They wash their hands.
Yes, always.
I think that, I don't care what age you start the potty training process.
It's always part of it.
And even if they have an accident or whatever, like learning to wash their hands.
And even if they don't go, if you go through the routine and they don't pee on the toilet, they've got clean underwear on still, you still wash the hands at the end. You go through the steps.
Right.
Always.
Yeah, there was that book that everything I needed to know I learned in kindergarten, except I feel like hand washing. I feel like there's no reason they can't learn that when they're like really, really, really young, that they're supposed to clean their hands.
Yep, that is the last part of the whole cycle. And so we do. And often for young children, that's like the really fun part for them is like standing at the sink and washing their hands, you know, and like making the lather with the bubbles.
That was their reward.
Yeah, so it's just built in. They don't need a separate reward. They've got the reward of getting to wash their hands once they've finished.
Maybe we should make the reward brushing their teeth.
Oh yeah, we can
wash your hands and brush your teeth. It's great. It's the best thing ever. Okay, so a few other questions that I've received. If you get frustrated, should you stop? So say I decided I have little Timmy and Timmy's walking, and now decided I have 2 weeks of available time. I'm going to take his underwear off. He's going to be bare-bottomed. I'm going to say it's time to go to the restroom or whatever I'm going to call it. I have my potty sit up there, and little Timmy, all he wants to do is spray the wall with urine and poop on the rug. And he has zero interest in paying attention or listening. He has ignored all of these sign language signs. And there's no such thing as all done. And then as a parent, I'm getting frustrated because the room's now, it's like having a newborn puppy. He's peeing everywhere. And so should I stop and say, maybe you're not ready and we'll just stop and readdress this at a later date? Or would you say push through?
So I say push through. Once you start, go all in. Be all in and it will happen. Once you pull back and you restart or you start modifying, the rules are changing for them. And they're constantly trying to adapt to the new rules. And when you're not consistent, they don't know what to expect.
Okay.
So once you start, go all in. And I actually would say that it's not that the child isn't ready. It's probably that maybe you weren't ready.
Right.
And we find ourselves in this situation often with children. Even like you give birth and you think you were ready, and then you get home and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do with this child?
The number of phone calls I've gotten with the baby won't start crying, and then I just show them how to swaddle the baby, and they're like, oh, that's a miracle.
Like, what do you do with the newborn?
Yeah.
So that's part of parenting is you get into something and you feel unprepared. I mean, that's just life with children. But just push through, be confident, and know that he will get it. They all get it. But they all...
Very few high schoolers not potty trained, correct?
that go to prom in diapers.
Yeah, very well. I mean, healthy.
Right.
Very few.
Yeah, they get it. They understand. They come to understand their body. But just like with all parts of development, we don't get to decide when they do it. We can just make the optimal conditions for it to happen.
Okay.
And that's part of making sure the environment is always prepared, and the people are always prepared and accepting and compassionate that, yes, we're going to be here to support you as you go through this.
Right, okay. All right, well, that's perfect. And then I just had special tips for potty training the strong-willed child.
So, the strong-willed child as far as just saying no all the time, like a 2.5-year-old that says no? Or
any idea that you have, they want to do the other. You say, let's go to the park. They say, let's go do this. You say, well, let's do this. Let's do this. And so that kid who just won't seem to get it.
Yeah.
Like, there might be that kid. Even
There
though you
might
say
be
they
that
all
kid.
get it.
I often find that strong-willed children, and I'll put it in.
They're very
because
successful.
it's not my phrase. I find that they need choices in life. So this would be one of the things where potty training's not a choice, right?
Oh, okay.
But you start to implement choices in all the other parts of life. So when you go to the grocery store, you say, this is what we're making for dinner. Should we have cucumbers or tomatoes in our salad? And so they want to be making more choices, and they want to be contributing to family life. And when they get so kind of stubborn and what feels like stuck in their ways, or and children show it in different ways. Some children are very verbal about it. Other children do what I say is like grow roots, and they feel like they've been planted there and you can't move them, and you're like, oh my gosh, how are you, why, you're like a cement block, I can't move you. So they will show their need to be heard in different ways. Right. And when a child does that, it means that they need to be an active participant in the family. And so when a young child's doing that, it probably means that there aren't times in the day, and I don't mean that they need to rule the family. That's not what they should do. You don't put your 2-year-old in charge of the family, but you say, what are the choices?
Underline that in bold. Do not put your 2-year-old in charge of the family.
Yeah, but what are the moments that they can choose? What are the things in life that are important to them and less important to us, so that when we as the parents need to make the decisions, they're happy to listen to us because we're happy to listen to them. When she says she wants to wear that crazy outfit,
right?
Like, that doesn't really matter. That the pants and the shirt don't match, or the shoes are on backward. There are things that don't matter that you can let go of. And when you can let go of those things, they're more willing to listen to you when there are things that they really do need to listen to.
Okay, that's a good idea. So last question, and then I know that y'all offer a potty boot camp training.
We do.
We'll call it potty learning boot camp. Maybe you do have a social name.
We call
for
it poop camp.
Oh, yes, poop camp. See, what's the scoop on poop? So you can have the poop emoji all the time.
We have one coming up in February.
Okay, and what does that entail?
So families come. It's very limited. I keep it to just 5 families, and they work one-on-one with me.
5 families.
5 families at a time. Yeah.
All right.
They spend an hour with me for 4 days in a row, same time every day, and all the families come together. It's one thing with young children is they learn well in groups.
Yes.
So
peer pressure actually works really well.
It's that positive peer pressure for these young ones. So they come, they all have their own little potty. I show them the routine, and throughout the hour I work with the parent on, this is how we do the routine, this is the language we use, get them comfortable with it. They play in between using the potty. and they come for 4 days straight, and then they get all the instruction of this is how you do it at home. And then they have access to me as far as email, text messages, phone calls, like, and usually it's day 3. Oh my gosh, this is not working. It was working, and now it's not. And then I help them adjust their routine based on their child's personality.
Okay.
So in that time, the 4 days I spend with them, I get to know their child, and because I've worked with so many young children and different personalities in this, I usually have some, you know what, you could lay off on this part, but this is the way you should phrase this. And it's those little tweaking. So for parents that feel like they really want support to get through this, we get you like the jump start. So we say it'll take 2 weeks, the first week you spend with us, and then the second week you're kind of on your own, but you get to call us.
I did. It sounds like you have 4 other families that are friends for life.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Bonding over poop.
Kids all go poop together. Okay, and then I also know Studio June has just lots of other opportunities. I've had parents and little patients who've gone there and they've only spoken so highly and have loved it. So it's great. You should check it out. It is in Bel Air. We're always happy because we're also in Bel Air.
Yep.
It's actually just around the corner from us down on Bel Air Boulevard. And so thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
If any of y'all end up having questions later, because I know a lot of people will watch this later, you can always send me an email. If you don't know how to find my email, I think if you Googled my name, you could find my email, to be quite honest. But I'm sure it's on our website too. But we're happy to pass them along, or even get a hold of Sarah yourself as well. So, and check it out. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone.